So the finance director is not here. She's on vacation. And not all of the documents were in by the time she left for vacation, but I'm going to give a couple real quick things. I feel like I'm singing the same song every month, but real quickly, I did a look back again, the last 2 years compared to this year, because that's what I'm trying to see is what the trend is, or did we just budget improperly? But the trend for both local service tax and transfer tax is down. I mean, it's clearly what that is. So we budgeted, like between the two of them, we budgeted 1.8 million almost. And right now we've collected just shy of 900,000. So we're about half. We're over half a year, you know, because it included July and part of August. So I am concerned about those. I mean, those are two areas. The good news is real estate taxes, we're actually just a little ahead even of our trend. So that's good. Delinquent taxes are behind, which means the county's probably not pressing as hard as what they have been pressing in the past. But other than that, on the real estate taxes, that's good. The only other thing that I'm going to make mention of, expense-wise, we're staying pretty much on target of what we would expect. But I would make mention that I'm watching really carefully what I'm expecting in regards to some of the dollars related to, it's not a lot of dollars, but it's like state dollars. There also seems like they're cutting back a little bit in what we get from the state. So I'm just trying to make sure that that's not just this year, but it's like I want to see if that's going to be a pattern going forward. But other than that, most everything else is pretty much on target. I will say when we're looking at totals so far to date, we budgeted 11.3 for the year. We've collected 9.5 of the revenue, which is typical. Like, you know, like we expect to have most of the revenue early in the year. Our expenses are at 5.5, so they're about on target. So just kind of letting you know where we stood with that. The other thing I wanted to take a few minutes and share with you, I presented the personnel budget, the preliminary personnel budget to the board on Monday night. So I thought I would just take a minute and talk about what we're presenting and what we're doing, because you all weighed in last year, and I wanted to let you know what we're doing. So we're not projecting any new positions for next year. We know we need to at some point for Public Works, but right where we are right now, dollar wise, I didn't think it was wise, and I'll tell you why here in just a moment. The police contract has a guaranteed 3.25% increase based on cost of living. I'm estimating the other area to be about 3. I'm watching that. It could go down a little bit. It keeps hovering right about that 3 range, and so I'm watching that.
What do you mean by the other area? What are
the non-uniform?
Oh.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. The non-uniform officer or non-uniform employees, we try to do based off of cost of living. That cost of living seems to have kind of leveled out in the 3 range. It could be as low as about 2.5 I'm looking at, but it could be as high as 3.5. I'm just watching it. But right now we budgeted at 3. The area that's probably the biggest concern, we have a couple employees, particularly in Public Works, who are getting adjustments because we hire them, and then there's adjustments over a 5-year period, they move up kind of thing. So we're doing that and keeping everybody on target with that. But the big change that happened for this year is the pension cost. Our pension is an actuarial study is done every other year. So they did the actuarial study in January of this year. Good news, bad news. They did the actuarial study on January 1st. Things got better since then, but on January 1st, it was actually pretty bad looking at December 31st of last year. In doing so, I think I've been telling you, we were 113% funded in the police, and we were like about 108% funded, 103% funded in the non-uniform, if I remember right. Before that, in January, we dropped to 90% funded in the non-uniform and like 93% funded in the uniform, which is like, there are many pension plans across the state that would be thrilled to be at that number. But it does have a direct impact on us and has a direct impact on our contribution that we're required to make. So in 2023, our contribution to the non-uniform plan was 184,000, and our uniform contribution was 219. In 2024, our contribution to the non-uniform is 234,000. So that's roughly about a $50,000 increase. But the uniform contribution went up to 595. And so between the two of them, that's $425,000. That is a huge, huge increase to our budget in literally one line item, basically. So one of the things that I've done, and I've told the board, based on that, we have 3 positions that are not filled today. I put those on hold. We're not going to fill them until I know exactly where we're going to be with the budget, because I don't want to fill them and then put us in a position that we don't want to be where we are. And so we're going to start watching certain things a little bit more closely to see where that is. We're going to see where everything else is. There's a $625,000 increase, I think is what it was, 600. I'll look at it again to make sure I have it right.
So then if the market stays flat the rest of the year, after having done so well,
Yep.
then in January 1st, it'll look really good for net, but then that means that in 2025, we'll have a significant reduction in the budget.
Potentially, depends on what 2024 does, right? Because it's a 2-year study.
Oh, it's every 2 years.
It's every 2 years that it does that. And so 2025 will be when the next study is.
Some say, okay.
And so 2026 will be when we experience the potential difference.
Understood.
What happened in 21? Were we over or underfunded? And we were overfunded.
We were overfunded in 2021.
Right.
21 was a good year in the market.
Yeah, from this for somewhat the same reason or the opposite reason, which was that there was a surge at the end of 20. And so we were overfunded. So yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to look at doing for us, I've been here 8 years, and probably 5 or 6 of the 8 years, we've done very well with the stock market, and we've really improved our standing with our pensions, and we focused on that, making sure we funded what we needed to, get to a lower percentage rate of expected return. If we were still at the 8% instead of at the 6.5%, that would have made this even worse, and so we've done all the right steps to get us to where we need to be, I think. One of the things that I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back over probably the last 8 years and do the next 2, have a 10-year history and say, here, if we were budgeting, we should have this as our budget. And on those years that were, hopefully we can kind of level that out so we're not experiencing this kind of thing. And so I have some homework to do on that with Yvonne, and we'll work on that and we'll come up with a plan. But it's not going to help us in 2024, but in 2025. But I think going forward, like if we do experience the down, maybe we don't cut back so much. We plan on trying to figure out how to level that out and say, if we were putting this in all the time, could we stay more level and stay healthy as a pension plan? We're healthy, don't, let me be very clear, 90+% funded. We're still a 0 in distress factor. There are lots of pension plans out there that are in real trouble. I mean, like real trouble.
Yeah.
And we are not. The board has been incredibly proactive in trying to make sure that we're not. Both the pension board and the board of supervisors have really been making sure that we've stayed healthy. And I'm thankful that they've done that, because today, even though that's a big number, it's a much smaller number than it could have been. And we'll do smoothing. We've been doing market value. We'll do smoothing this time. We're allowed to smooth over a 10-year cycle. And, I think we'll return and let the market do a lot of the catch up.
Does the pension plan allow you to make contributions over and above what you need to fund?
Absolutely. We've done that for probably 6 of the 8 years I've been here. We did that. We wanted to go to 6.5%. We knew we wanted to go to a 6.5% assumption rate, assuming that would be our return on investment. But I didn't want to put us into a distress level to do that. And so both boards discussed it, and we overfunded the pension for 5 years in a row so that we could do that. And then we had a really great year in the stock market, which allowed us to do that. And then we turned around and had the year that was not so good after that, which kind of hurt us. But it allowed us to get to 6.5, which really helped, because we could have had the same type of increase in the non-uniform as we did in the uniform had we not done those things. Because if it was an 8% assumption rate, we would have had to add that much more into it.
Okay, where are the 3 positions? They're vacant now?
The 3 positions that are vacant now, we have a custodial position that we've been wanting to hire for really a couple of years. And we thought we had it hired, and the person who we thought was going to take it backed out. And so I never re-advertised. And so we're working through that. The second position is, there are 2 of them are full-time, one's part-time. The second full-time position is, we had the administration person leave in the police department, one of the 2. So we're working with one less person there. And then the third position was a part-time position in codes that was going to be administrative. So the 2
That's going to be a new position.
that was going to be a new position. And so the 2 administration positions are going to be kind of what needs to be done will be spread out. Either in some cases, a police officer will pick it up because it requires a little bit of speciality. In other cases, it might be one of our folks upstairs covering. And then for sure, the position in codes will cover. We didn't have it before. We've been making it through now. And then the custodial position, George's team has been covering that, and they will just continue to cover that.
All right, well, that concludes the report section on new business. Discussion about meeting dates for next year.
So I think the question here came back. I think this is on because of the question you asked last
Correct.
time, Alex. I did go through, the resolution does require that you meet monthly. And so what we can do is we could go back and have the board revisit that, if that makes sense. Maybe we would say that you're required to meet every other month, but meet monthly as needed, kind of a thing. And so, but I wanted to get some feedback from you before I went back to the board and asked for the adjustment. And then I can make that recommendation.
Well, I think that, from my perspective, that would be good. If we went to every other month, or,
I'm sort of new, so,
because we have people.
I think monthly is usually a good thing.
But people
Just
haven't
keeps
been
it straight.
here. But people haven't been here. That's the thing. I was out, and Lisa's been out a few times, and
Well.
summer's tough,
Yeah, summer stuff.
So,
And maybe what we do is we say that is recommended to meet monthly, as needed. But we'll meet on a minimum of a certain number of times a year. And that way we don't set up a schedule. We'll keep it as a monthly, but if you're not gonna have people, you can do that. I don't know. I'm
Don't do
open.
it yet. We'll wait till everybody's here, because I mean, I don't wanna push through something that's.
Okay.
Not everybody.
I just wanted you to know the resolution states that you'll meet monthly. Because I would have considered not having the meeting today, had the resolution not said what it said.
Exactly.
Because I mean, there wasn't a whole lot on the agenda that I thought we had to cover. But based on what the resolution said, I felt like we were kind of forced to do that.
I think the idea of the bi-monthly, unless needed, that gives you the flexibility.
Yeah,
And you could
But
also, if you're going that route, you could also go quarterly.
yeah.
And yeah, and then.
Yeah, and because if you're planning to meet monthly, you at least have a floor at quarterly.
Yeah. All right, well, what I'll do is I'll work with Steve. We'll come up with a couple different wordings to let you kind of look at,
Yeah.
maybe at your next meeting. Hopefully, everybody will be here and we can come back and,
Yeah, actually, it's in September, right? Yeah, I won't be here. but-
oh, you won't be here?
No, but I'll send in my book.
Okay,
All right, so that's funny. Yeah, because we also mentioned last time, like when Steve does his report, like he just did, he already does that during the meetings for the board. It's kind of a rehash, like I saw your slides for
yeah.
the personnel.
So you knew the punchline.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to have you keep doing the same thing. I mean, repeating something you've done before, so that's.
Well, I tried to do it even a little quicker for you guys than I did for them.
I know, all right, like update on stormwater financing,
I have no update at this
Yeah.
point. The two people that are kind of working on that, they're both out and I've had a kind of a busy month, so it didn't.
I don't even know why that's on the agenda,
Well, it's kind of been a hold under old business. We've been doing it ongoing.
because
We're waiting on the board.
no.
Well, the
I don't
board's
know.
given direction now.
So they have.
Yeah, they want you to come back with a recommendation, whatever it is.
What was really weird about the stormwater presentation to the board was we had a slide with all the different amounts on it, like how much it would cost to do a fee and a tax, and Ed skipped that. He
Oh,
didn't
did he?
do it. He didn't do it. He didn't go over it.
Oh, okay.
I think intentionally, he didn't want to he is more concerned, I guess, about people's feelings. I don't have such concerns. And it was laid out there, so we have it already, and then I guess they want a recommendation from us on which of those we choose, so.
Yes.
We should be able to wrap this up next meeting. It's not like this is,
Right.
this has been going on for a year and a half. It'd be nice to get this off our.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there forever. All right, discussion regarding third-party vendors. So now we have something new. We just got this, spreadsheet. So this is the third-party vendors, people that have to bid for stuff. Is that what this sheet represents?
These are the agreements. So in some cases, they're not bid, in some cases they are bid. So,
Why? I don't know the rules about that. Like,
well, it depends on what it is. So, some things are considered, I'm looking here though, just looking at it, most of these are bid. But like, for example, Gallagher's our insurance agent, so as the insurance agent, he goes out and bids out our insurance for us, but we're not bidding Gallagher as being the insurance agent, if that makes sense.
we don't pay Gallagher anything himself directly.
He's paid, I think, through the insurance, whatever
You're
insurance.
probably paying him, but
Yeah.
then he pays.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. The ambulance, again, we did a bid, but that's just kind of been renewing annually, and we've just left it at that. A couple of these, like Bright Sign, we did the bid initially, and now it's just a yearly maintenance. like and bright signs, when you come in and you see in the library, or you see in here, or you see in the lobbies, kind of advertised of what's going on at the township, that's bright sign, that's where we get that. That's once we bid it, it was bid and then it's set kind of thing. Similar thing with like Civic Plus, because it's our website. Once you kind of start with them, you just kind of stay with them. The rest of those have been bid at some point. I was thinking, I don't see, we have contracts both with, I thought that were on your list, with both the solicitor and the engineer. Those aren't bid. Those are selected by the board. They're considered professional services. The auditor is a professional service, although we have gone out and gone through an RFP process for our auditor, but it's not a true, like you're taking the lowest bid kind of answer.
Can I ask you a question on Eastern Salt? So did we actually use $50,000 of salt on the roads this year? Is that a curiosity? Or is that like something where you're gonna have a certain amount a year, no matter what? Is that?
So the answer is this: do we use 50,000 last year? No, we didn't even come close. Some years we use every bit of the 50,000.
Sure.
And we sure try not to use more than we have to. But we also don't err on the side of not having our roads safe,
Sure.
right? Because that's our primary responsibility.
Yeah.
So do I have to buy 50,000 if we don't need it? No. If we were on the state contract, yes. So we've gone out, we are with, I think it's 11 now. We added one municipality to the group. So we have 11, I think maybe it's 11 other municipalities. I forget if it's 11 total or if it's 11 other municipalities, but we go together and we bid it. Out of the 8 years I've been here, I think 6 we've been less than a state contract. 2 we've been over. This year we're over, but it's like 50 cents a ton. And when you're looking at $73.77, I can deal with the 50 cents a ton. You know, I mean, it's not a lot. We've found that bidding it ourselves, not only do we not gotten into the spot that if we don't use it, we have to buy. We also are, we've done better than what the state contract is most of the time.
So that contract then means that they're responsible to provide the salt no matter how much it's used.
Obviously, if we start going over that amount, you know, they could, like, you know, we say, I forget how many tons, but let's say we say 50 tons of salt is what we're getting, and it's more than that, obviously. But if we say we're getting 50 tons of salt, and if all of a sudden we were needing 100 tons, and they could put a surcharge on that because it's way outside of what the contract limits are.
So I guess, Scott, I'm trying to understand also, the 50,000, do we pay that no matter what?
No, we only pay as we use,
I got it.
but we budget 50,000.
Okay.
That's what you're asking.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I probably didn't answer that very clearly. That's one that we only pay as we use. A couple of these are that way, and we don't have, like, for example, our Constellation Energy, we don't have it's whatever we use, we pay, but that's the price point for it.
All right.
For that.
Well, you mentioned Gallagher. How long has that person or that group been doing that work for this? My antenna always go up when I see something like, so can we add a column to this that would say how long, like, it says start date of 2023, but that's not exactly right. I mean.
Well, yeah, because it's every year it's renewed. So,
Yeah.
but they've probably been doing that. Let me say, I believe it was probably 10 years, at least 10 years before I came.
Oh,
But
Has
maybe,
the township ever looked at, do we get a better rates if we switch to a different, because that's a lot of, there's a couple $100,000 worth of insurance contracts there, or am I treading on some ground I'm not supposed to?
no,
Well, that would be a tough one. You know,
No, I want to know.
personal experience. I'm with the Historical Society, and we've had insurance liability there forever. And this past year, the service wasn't so great. So I just asked another insurance agent. And he came in significantly under. Because one was using excess, I'm not sure where the other one actually went to the insurance company. So, but how you would bid that is,
Yeah.
would be very difficult. to
so
do.
here's the answer. I do believe this is partly political. I will say that, and I'll just put it at that. But I will say this. I have occasionally gone to look for other prices, and I have used that to help us keep this where the numbers are. Let's just say that.
Fair enough, I got it. All right. Is there anyone else like that on the list that would be here forever? What's our job as a finance committee to figure out where?
Yeah, no, that's what I want you guys to do.
Yeah.
I won't say forever, but like, we purchased. Some of these are things we purchased and then you're kind of stuck with them, right? So like we purchased the Cody software for the police. And now unless you change software, although there's not many other out there, the one that was out there that we had before has now gone out of business. So Cody's an example of that. When you see Dallas Data, that's our financial software. It's a big deal. It's a big deal to change financial software. We did that probably 7 years ago. And it took us probably a year and a half to do the full transition and get everything in and done. So like, yes, they've been with us a long time. How long should we stay with them? I don't know. I agree with you. We can go back and look at the start date based on when we brought them on versus when the latest contract is. I'm looking here.
I think the landscaping, probably the track.
Landscaping's bid out every 2 to 3 years, every 3 to 5 years, depending on how many. Like we had, typically what we do is we bid landscaping for a 3-year bid. And then we turn around and do 2 1-year extensions.
Okay.
And if at our option.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, at the rate things have gone up, the last couple of times we've done the 1-year option.
Yeah.
Just to take advantage of that.
Right.
Republic with doing trash removing at the township, that's a 2-year bid. And so that's an example.
Yeah.
The generator maintenance, I think we usually do for several years. Like we try to do 3-year bids or kind of thing, just because if you change every year, I have found that the next company comes in, blames the last company for what they, like, if something's not going well. But if you get, when you're in your 3rd year, they own it.
Right.
And
No, that's
so,
good. You don't want.
so anyway,
cost.
but I do think, I think that it's a good thing to look at this. And if you have questions, I'm glad to answer them. We'll go back.
Here's another question.
Yeah.
So, you take, for the salt, you've got 10 municipalities.
Yep.
Have you ever thought about doing that with the insurance? Where you go to?
Well, actually, we have.
Okay.
Okay, so we do use Gallagher for our non-employee insurances, like, so for health insurance, for example, we're in a pool of I don't even know how many now, but it started out probably about 12 municipalities. I think we're up to somewhere around 17, I think is where they are. And we've really benefited from that.
Is that a self-insured?
It's it's a
With a wrap.
with a wrap, yeah, with a rider.
Yeah.
And we've had 5 years of no increase of health insurance.
Right.
I mean, I don't know who's experiencing that, but we've had 5 years of literally no increase in health insurance. Which is awesome,
It's awesome.
and, and 1 year, maybe 2 years, we actually had what they called a, what did they call it?
A rebate?
Huh?
A rebate?
Well, it wasn't, they didn't do it as a true rebate, but what they did was they just said you didn't have to pay for a month. So we benefited. Actually, I think this year in 2023, we didn't have to pay for 2 months. They actually had 2 months that we didn't have to pay.
And you do, so for that, you with the employees here, you do educational, like health educational seminar, do you make them give those to you? So you should
So-
probably get Gallagher to do,
Yes.
you're gonna be self-insured. What you want to do is really educate your employees. So that they, do proactive type.
Yeah, we've done some of that. We have a monthly thing that they put out and we goes out. We haven't done a lot of in-person kind of stuff. It's really hard to do in person here. Just because of our shift schedules and things like that. Like if I offer something at 10 o'clock, I get potentially 3 officers out of 22.
Yeah.
Because it's all that's on, kind of thing. And so you just have to kind of work through that. But we do some of those trainings, like they do our harassment training and things like that. So, but yes, but we do a monthly newsletter that goes out and here's the things that you should consider and those kind of things.
I've been trying to figure out if I'm gonna ask this properly, but are there these are your contractual expenses where you actually have signed on the dotted line to say, we want that service. Are there other things that are in our budget that are not contractual that we spend money for that we should be looking at? Like office supplies, vehicle maintenance,
Sure.
things like that, that aggregate to a lot of money, but are not subject to a contract.
So that's a good question. And the answer is, we can add those. What I will say is what we've done with a lot of those is we piggybacked off the state contract. So the contract with the state is what we're actually based off of. It's not our contract, so it's not listed here. But like, for example, under CoStars, which is a statewide bidding system, a lot of times that's how we buy our vehicles. Like we don't, because to go out to bid for a vehicle is very difficult. Like you have to say, I want a vehicle that has these items. And if you miss something and they don't put it in, then you don't get it, right? And so it's a lot easier to go off the state contract, which says they're going to give you this % discount off of the sticker, for example. So, and I'll just give you an example. We bought 2 vehicles here this year that were going to be used for administration and codes. And in both cases, the sticker price was like $12,000 more than what we actually paid for it. So, last year we bought a Tahoe for $45,000. It's I don't know where, if you can try to go out and buy a Tahoe for $45,000, it's pretty tough to do. Well, they don't have a lot in it. We did, it's not carpeted, it's a vinyl floor, those kind of things, because it's being used in the police department, or in our case.
You buy the cars, lease.
We do buy them. We were leasing when I came. What I found was that we were really just spending interest that we didn't need to spend, because at the end of the day, when we were getting down to the end of the lease, we were always over what the
Oh.
miles would be. And I mean, like, there was all kinds of issues that would be there. We were buying some like, we were buying on credit.
Yeah.
And again, we just made a shift and said, we budget money every year so we can pay cash for the vehicles that we're gonna buy.
There you go.
And by doing so, we're gaining the interest on the money that we've invested while we're doing it. And then when we go to buy it, we just say, here's the money, and we're done. And we've done that with the police cars. You know, the average police car lasts about 5 to 6 years. And when we get done with it, it usually has 70, 80,000 miles on it of driving. But it's got, if you do the, when you do the hourly, which all of the police cars have is an hourly clock. It's like they've been 120 to 130,000 miles. And, you know, your car at 130,000 miles is in a whole lot better shape than a police car at the end of 130,000 miles. Just a different kind of wear and tear. You know, we've got 2 or 3 different drivers in every car. Typically, you've got, you know, some of our cars run 48 hours straight, 72 hours straight, depending on how the shift is. They literally run that entire time. So there's a lot of miles and hours on these cars just because of the way they're used. We think that they go when there's a shift change and they get a break.
Picking up on what John said, how difficult would it be to run a report on vendors spending? What vendor is the highest? You know, Acme. You spend $100,000 a year at Acme or by different vendors.
Well, I hope we're not spending $100,000
No, but I'm
a
just,
year at Acme.
I'm just saying, you know, are there, you know, it's not a contract.
No, I got
Is there a vendor out there, like you said, office supplies? You know,
Yeah.
you're spending, you know, $10,000 or $100,000 to see where. And is it worth doing that?
Well, let me say this, we can do that for you. I'm gonna make a note to myself. I think running, the easiest one is for sure to run our vendor list and say, what's our spend in a year?
Mhm.
That's easy.
Mhm.
I say that's easy. Mike's gonna kick me and tell me that that was not true. But I think it's an easy report for him to run. The one that will be more difficult, and we've been trying to shift some of our spending over to this, is the use of the purchase card that we use. And so I don't know if they can give me a report by vendor. I know they can tell me this type of spending we've done. I don't know if they can tell me, I don't know if they can
But
give me
that
a
might be
report by
good
vendor.
too, the type of spending.
What's it?
So, you know, just, you know,
What's the purchase card?
So the purchase card it's similar to a credit card. The difference is that we have a lot more control of it. So like, I can say, if we issue you a purchase card and you're a police officer, for example, you would never have access to go to the Home Depot and buy something. You couldn't go buy at that location. You couldn't, but I would limit any hardware type of expenditure. But I might give you access to go buy at Wawa because you're buying prisoner food and need to go do that, where I wouldn't give access to the public works team to go buy at Wawa. You know, because there's no reason for them to. So it's that kind of thing.
Coffee.
I was just gonna say, George might think differently.
Well, George might think differently. I mean, I will say during a storm, I go into Wawa and I say, our guys are coming in, whatever they need, you put it on this. If they have a township, we cover what they're, because we have an agreement that if you are beyond your 8-hour shift, we provide food for the hours beyond the 8-hour shift. And so we have done that. I've actually had people give us Wawa cards and I go just put them there and I say, this is for township during storms, just cover it and that's covered. But I've also done it the other way. And they've been pretty good about that. they're always a little careful. They don't, you know, because they don't want to be giving it to the wrong person, and I appreciate that. But that's the way we control those things and we watch over those things.
Relatively speaking, though, that's,
That's minor.
yeah.
It's very minor. I mean, like, you know.
I mean, all purchase card as a whole.
Oh, the purchase card as a whole, we probably spend somewhere between 50 to 100,000 a year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Because I actually encourage the folks to purchase on the purchase card because we get dollars back.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
That's a guy.
He
Huh?
tried for
He
his
gets the
class.
points,
Yeah,
yeah.
he gets the points.
no, but we actually get rebates back to the
Yeah.
township.
Yeah.
And so,
It's good.
you know, I try to take advantage. I mean,
Yeah, it adds
schools,
up.
school districts buy their buses and things off of these. And so imagine what they're getting. But a lot of our places don't want to use the purchase card because there's still a cost to
Yeah, they
them.
pay, sure.
Like I've tried to purchase vehicles with them and they're like, no, just write us a check. So I want to use the purchase card anytime we can, but it doesn't always work. But what it has done for us is like, I almost never have a Home Depot bill now. We used to have a Home Depot bill every month, but now with the purchase card, it's one place and I can review everything in one spot.
I have a home.
Does that answer your?
Every month.
Yeah.
All right, that takes care of that. We'll probably revisit that at the next meeting. So items for next agenda. Public comment, adjournment.